Good evening, and welcome after a bit of a hiatus to the latest Grub with VW. First things first, I have my Dark and Stormy, and it is made with Pruss's rum, yes, and lime juice and ginger beer, so we'll see how that goes. So I've got a bit of prep to do, so I'll be back with you in a little while, but for the prep, we're going to do some of that on camera because I am going to demonstrate the new-ish Sage processor and dicer. Which in particular is going to chop up the onions for me because my eyes sting if I chop up onions by hand, and it'll save a lot of time. So I'll be demonstrating that in a moment. I'll be back shortly. And we're back, so I'm going to demonstrate the food processor in a moment. But first I'll tell you a little bit about what I'm making tonight. So the dish is called Domoda, I think that's how you pronounce it, and it is a Gambian dish. So it's a peanut-based, meat and peanut-based stew with a tomato and peanut sort of sauce. Found it in the Parish magazine. I've never made it before, so we'll see how it turns out. It seems to have some resemblance to satay, which I've made and eaten before, so again, we'll see how that goes. So I will now demonstrate the dicer, which saves me a lot of chopping time. I've got three mid-sized onions there, which I'm just going to run through, and also a stick of celery to pad them out a little bit. So I'll put those in. You may not be able to hear me once the machine is going. So I don't know whether you can hear me over that, but I've just chopped the onions into large pieces and I'm just pushing them in. There we go, done. So from what I've read about this dish, it's not all that dissimilar to some of the Italian ones that are a bit flexible as to what you put in it. This one can have really whatever vegetables you happen to have on hand. So tonight I'm using some chestnut mushrooms that were getting a little bit long in the tooth and needed using up. A red and green pepper, because just about everything I cook has got peppers in it. I'm using some fresh tomatoes as well, but there'll also be some canned tomatoes in it. And I've got two sweet potatoes here as well, which are they're a more inherent part of the dish. So I'll be chopping those up in a little while too. A little bit more prep to do though for the time being, so I'll be back with you shortly. So I've chopped up vegetables. So we've got some mushrooms, and we've got a red and green pepper, and we've got that's three sort of mid-sized tomatoes, and we've got two Scotch bonnet chilies and 4 cloves of garlic there. So I'll make a start on that in a moment. There's also 2 sweet potatoes. I have peeled them. I haven't yet diced them because they go in a bit later, so I'll do that while this bit is cooking. And of course I've got the onion and celery that I diced in the machine earlier. So I'll put the pan on. You've got a fairly high heat to start with, and that's a cast iron pan, so that will take a couple of minutes to warm up anyway. Kettle's on as well because we have to make some stock up. probably going to be vegetable stock. Might make it a beef and vegetable stock. I haven't decided yet. We shall see. Use a bit of rapeseed oil, I think. Could use olive oil, but I'm not going to on this occasion. I'll just put a bit of that in the pan. I'm going to need a utensil as well, aren't I? I've got to get one out of the drawer. Right, so start off with the onion and celery. That is the drawback of the automated chopping. You inevitably get a bit of wastage because you can't get every last bit out of the container or out of the chopper and so forth. Yeah, I'll take that middle thing out. Before it falls into the pan. There we go. Turn the heat down a little bit while I'm cooking the onion. Shaking the pan is a me thing. It's less suitable for that particular kind of pan rather than one with a handle. I'm still getting used to this one. Not sure whether I like it better or not. But this is going to go in the oven a bit later, which is not part of the recipe in the Parish magazine, but I think I have improved it. Okay, so while that's cooking, I'll put the garlic and the chilli in as well. And turn the heat back up a bit. I turned it down too much. Now this is capable of being a vegetarian dish actually, or indeed I think a vegan dish. So I am putting beef in it, which is obviously not very vegetarian or vegan, but it is fundamentally it's a peanut and tomato based stew. So you can leave the beef out and just have the sweet potato or have other vegetables. Like you could make it with just mushrooms and peppers. I'm sure it'll taste fine if you're one of those people. But we're not, so we're having it with beef. A little bit more oil. I'm going to put the meat in a moment, so I'll turn the heat up for that. I just want to try and cook the meat as quickly as possible. I'll push all of that onion and chilli off to the side. I'll actually move the pan slightly as well. And then we'll add the meat. Taz has come to see if he can get a bit. No, it's not for Taz. Not for Taz, sorry. This is our food, not your food. You've got your own food. It doesn't look like there's one of those. No, that's fine, so let's put that in. I'll just give my hand a quick wash because I touched the raw meat. I got rid of my hand towel, never mind. So that's just beef stir fry strips. You could use diced beef. You can use chicken. You probably could use pork. Use any meat really. But today we're using beef. Right. While it's cooking, I shall get the peanut butter because we're going to do peanut butter. I'm just using ordinary crunchy peanut butter from the supermarket. You can use actual peanuts if you like. Some people do that. probably makes it a bit more authentic. I don't think they necessarily have peanut butter that comes in plastic jars in Gambia. Right. The meat's just about browned. Mix it in with the onions and the chilli. Add a bit of salt and pepper as well. I possibly should have added that to the meat before I put it in the pan, but never mind. Okay. Now the meat's browned, I'll just turn the heat down a little bit, sort of medium heat. You're chopping the onion quite so finely so that you end up with a lot of it stuck to the spoon. Right, I shall check the recipe. Yep, just about everything else goes in now, so I'll put that in a moment. I'm just going to do a little bit more chopping on the sweet potato while we're letting the meat cook a bit more. I always find it quite hard on my wrist and elbow chopping sweet potato. I've had a bit of tendinitis in the elbow, so it's not something I'm going to do very often, but I'm doing it for tonight because it's not essential to this dish, but the recipe calls for it. So there we are. I'll put that in a bowl as well. But that goes in pretty much last. Okay. So that's the meat and onion sort of base, but it is mainly a peanut and tomato kind of sauce or stew. So I'm going to put in some tomato paste and the fresh tomatoes. Turn the heat down a little bit. Oops. And I'll also make up that stock. I have made the mistake of leaving the spoon in the pan before and it started to melt, so that's why I keep taking it out. Right, so for a vegetable stock, I just use bouillon. So about a spoonful of that. And some water. About 250 mils of water. Okay. And I'm going to mix in a bit of beef stock as well, just because I can. There's some frozen cubes of beef stock from. We get this beef stock. It comes in a can. It almost looks like beer from the local farm shop, and a can is far too big for any one recipe. So whenever we use some of it, we tend to freeze the remainder into these little cubes. So I'm just going to put a couple of them in. Oops, there goes one of them. I'll put 3 in. Because it is a beef-based stew, so I don't think some beef stock will do it any harm. A bit of a stir. Right, so I don't tangle myself up in my cord. It's starting to form a sort of a sauce from those tomatoes, which is good. I'll put in the red and green peppers and the mushrooms at this stage. Now the pot is starting to get a bit full, so I'll have to be careful that I'm not flicking ingredients over the side. It should cook down a bit in a moment though. So let's see, what is it? It's the 9th of June, the day after my nan Nola's 90th birthday, so that was yesterday. Unfortunately, her gathering had to be cancelled because of the COVID outbreak in Melbourne, which is a bit of a shit. But yeah, sent her a card, and we've put together a video for her, which Richard has spent literally days in his editing booth putting together. So I hope she likes it. I came over here for a reason. Ah yes, I need a spoon. So I need to put some peanut butter in. Right. Oh, it's got this. What is this? This sort of, you know, just so people can't sort of spit in it in the supermarket and put it back on the shelf, is it? I'm not sure I even thought of that. Now I've got peanut butter on my thumb. Right, let's get that. Wipe it off the sweet potato. Right. So the recipe calls for 200 grams. This is a 454 gram jar, so basically half a jar of peanut butter. So I'm going to put that in. In this house, normally the only thing we use peanut butter for is baiting mouse traps, but this is the first time in quite a while that I've cooked with it. I have cooked with it before, like I've made satay and that sort of thing. I'm not a huge fan of peanut butter. I don't eat it by itself, but you know, recipe, it's okay. I don't have a peanut allergy or anything. Usually when I tell people I don't eat peanuts, they think I've got an anaphylactic allergy to it, but I don't. Right, I'll put the canned tomatoes in as well. I tend to find a can of tomatoes, because it's got the juice and so on, they're just of a different consistency to fresh tomatoes, and they're better for certain kinds of, like when you're trying to make them the base of a sauce, I think you tend to need at least one can in there as well as the fresh ones. Just put a little bit of water in to wash that out. And I'll put the stock in as well. A possibly futile attempt to wash the peanut butter off the spoon with the stock. Otherwise I'll have to use another spoon. Yeah, well, that didn't really work at all, did it? I'll have to use another spoon to get that off. I'll just grab one. Actually, I've got my regular stirring spoon. I can use that, can't I? Right, so let's get all the peanut butter off the spoon so we don't waste any. Now it's stuck to that spoon. If I mentioned peanut butter is sticky. Right. There we go. Let's go to the sink. Right, now I'm going to try and mix all this together. Okay, that needs to cook now for a little while, probably about 20 minutes or so before I put anything else in. So we will pause there. I will put the lid on and turn the heat down, and we'll be back in a little while. And we're back. That's been on for about 20 minutes, something like that. The lid gets hot as well. So I'll lift the lid. Give that a stir. I had to give it a stir a couple of times while we were off camera as well. So you can see the peanut butter has now sort of melted in with the tomatoes and has formed that sauce, which looks very nice actually. So I will have a taste in a moment. Yep, that's good. That's actually quite mild in terms of heat, so I'm actually going to put in a little bit more chilli paste. I've worked on the principle that you can add but you can't subtract, so a little bit more in, and a little bit more tomato paste. There we go. Now that dish would actually be quite tasty as is. You could leave out the sweet potato. but since I've gone to the trouble of chopping it up, I'm not going to. So we'll put the sweet potato in. The pan is now very full. And I'm just going to add a splash of water as well. Okay, so now we just need to let that cook the sweet potato, which will be another half an hour, 40 minutes, something like that. I could just leave it on the stove for that, or I could put it in the oven. And tonight, I think I can't be bothered lighting the oven, so I'm just going to leave it on the stove and let it cook that way. That'll be fine. So I will do that. What else? Wine pairing. Mustn't forget the wine pairing. Wine pairing for tonight. If you've made it with chicken, because it's a spicy dish, it would probably be like a robust white, maybe a Southern Hemisphere Riesling or even a German Riesling would work, or a New Zealand Sav would probably be okay. Because I've made a beef-based one, and it's got beef in it, and it's got beef stock, and it's got the mushrooms as well. I think those sort of earthy tastes, I think they go better with a red. An Argentine Malbec would be one option, but I have gone for an Australian Shiraz, which is called a Willy Willy. It's a 2020 Shiraz. The Chinese have been boycotting Australian wine, so I've been making up the shortfall and buying a lot of Australian wine. Named after the swirling red dust storms that occur at the really dry end of summer. Aboriginal legend tells the story of Brolga, a graceful young dancing girl who was changed into a beautiful bird by a spirit disguised as Willy Willy. And they are as much part of Aboriginal. I thought you weren't allowed to use that word. It was Indigenous Australian for a long time. They may have gone back to Aboriginal now. Folklore, as Shiraz is synonymous with modern Australian winemaking. The wine brims with rich, ripe, brambly fruit, laced with exotic spices, full-bodied yet incredibly smooth. It makes the perfect partner for barbecued meat and other strongly flavoured dishes. That is a strongly flavoured dish. That is the wine pairing. So I will open up that and have a taste in a little while. So I'm going to let that cook for a bit longer, and then we will show you the end result in a little while. Back shortly. Oh, we're back. Okay. So I'm just pouring the wine, which I will try in a moment. I've just put some rice on to cook, because of course you don't have this by itself. You need to have it with some rice, or with you could have it with something like tagliatelle, but I think they use rice in the Gambia. Or yeah, I suppose you could have mashed potatoes or something like that if it's more like a beef bourguignon kind of stew. So we shall see. Oh, is that your glass? Is it? Right, this is my glass. Yep, that's drinkable. Everyday drinking Australian red. Right, let's see how this is going. It's hot, so I will use the towel to take the lid off. It's bubbling away. That probably needs to thicken up a little bit, so I'm going to leave the lid off at this point. Let's give it a stir, and then I'll have a taste. That rice has got about 8 minutes to go, so we may finish before the rice is ready, and then we'll just show you a picture of the finished dish in a little while, but it depends whether this is ready yet, so I'll have a taste in a moment. There's the little spoon. Tastes good. The sweet potato is not quite ready. That's okay, because there's another 8 minutes before the rice is ready. So I'll just leave the lid off that and let that cook away for a little while longer. The rice will be ready in a bit. We've poured the wine. I think that is it for tonight. So we'll add a picture of the finished product when it's ready. And welcome back. I know it was a long break, sorry about that. And thanks for watching.